The news reports Biden is the 46th president of the United States of America, but Trump says it ain't over yet. What do I think? I'm glad you asked. Let me explain. First, let me say, hey, hi, yo, what up? To all my friends and frenemies, welcome back to the channel where we apply logic and conviction to the news, politics, life, and whatever else comes our way. I'm C. Scott, and this is my view. So right now, we're in the middle of like the longest election count ever. And if not ever, it's been the longest in a really, really long time. And it's partially by design. I think we're going to talk about that in just a little bit. But with this long count, it also probably means it's going to be quite a while before we actually know who has won victory in this 2020 presidential election. The news media is saying Biden is the winner, but they don't actually have the power to say the next president is. So Biden being the next president is actually just a projection, but the election of 2020 has not yet been certified, which means it's not yet official. It could remain that way, I hope not, but it hasn't been certified by all the different states to be able to pass over the electoral votes to each candidate. So technically, even though they're saying that he's the president right now, and he's calling himself the president-elect, we really don't actually know who's officially won the election of 2020. So what do we do now? That's what we're going to talk about today. The reason they hold the election, presidential election, and other elections in November is so that there is time between the election and when those people who were elected actually get sworn into their offices, so that counting can be done, transitions can be had, and so there also can be checks, balances, and verifications of the election. So it's okay technically that we don't have a true answer yet. We would love to know right now who's going to be the next president who will be serving for the next 4 years, but we don't right now. It's happened before. It's not the first time ever, but there are some things that we need to do from right now until the time that we know what's really going to happen. The news media is projecting it, like I said earlier, but it hasn't been certified. There's an official process that every state has to go through to pass their electoral college votes toward one candidate or the other, and then the system of government will go in place and be able to decide which candidate has actually won. And so what we're hearing right now is just news media projections. And let me remind you that earlier in the election, Fox News quickly said that Arizona went to Joe Biden, but then they had to take that down because of the amount of counts that were still to come into play. So same thing here, they're projecting him as the winner, but it's not 100% certain just yet. Once a winner has been chosen or has been certified, President Trump also still has the opportunity or the option to contest those results and send those things to court, which he's most likely going to do. I think either candidate in this election was going to challenge the results unless they were really, really clear. They're going to challenge the results in court. So while one winner is projected right now, and then we still have to wait for the certification, but even beyond that, it's going to be a court case and a court battle. And back in, I believe it was 2000, when the country was voting between the second Bush president and Al Gore, that wasn't actually known or decided. The winner wasn't actually known or decided until sometime around mid-December of that year after that election. So don't know how long it's going to take. I want to know the sooner than later. But my faith and confidence is that we will have our guy back in office for a second term. So while the news media is projecting that Biden has won, they're also the very same time ignoring all of these different accounts of election fraud or irregularities or just problems and issues, if you want to just call it that, that's been happening throughout the nation in different places. There are lots of things that are being said, not just about one candidate losing to another, but that there was actual fraud that took place. And so they're going their own way and reporting what they want to report, but they're not spending a whole lot of time looking at the credibility of the claims. The reports that I've heard in the last couple of days continue to say that without evidence, Donald Trump is doing this and that Donald Trump is making this baseless claim. But it's going to take a while to get the evidence. The evidence is only going to come after there's research or after there's been some type of investigation. Investigations only happen after misdeeds or misconduct has been claimed. So he's claiming that right now. And of course, he doesn't have evidence 100% yet because they have to go in and get that evidence. But they're making those claims based on good and credible information that has come out from all over the U.S., lots of different states that have been involved. And so we're going to have to look and see what they find in the court when they do the investigation. This same news media that's ignoring all these counts of fraud and misgoing-ons in the election are the same ones that constantly perpetuated the myth of Russian collusion. You remember that? How many years and how many stories did they run on Russian collusion, and how many times did they say that Donald Trump was somehow working with the Russians to be able to win the election of 2016, even though we have Barack Obama recorded as saying, you can't just hack into the system and choose a different candidate, basically. They ignored that for a long time. They ignored the fact that after that investigation was completed, there was no collusion or information found that proved or really even suggested that Trump had anything to do with Russian election interference. Ignored that, but then they also ignored all the connections that Hillary Clinton had to Russians, to election interference. They also went on beyond that to ignore all the things that happened between Joe Biden and his son Hunter, and how all the money was funneled through him and how he's getting paid. And they actually have real evidence, people that are willing to go on the record and clarify that. They ignore all of that, but then say, Biden's the president, there's nothing to see here. Donald Trump is making all these baseless claims, and they wonder why nobody trusts the media. So if we go back for a minute ahead of the election for 2020, because of coronavirus and the response to it, lots of Democrats in particular were trying to say that, we can't have the election the same way. We're going to need to do all mail-in ballots, and we just need to send the mail-in ballots out. Don't let people vote in person. And there was a bunch of back and forth. Eventually, there was some states that decided to just send out mail-in ballots. And then the news was reporting what Trump was saying about that, and lots of conservatives or people on the right were saying about that. And that is, mail-in ballot is a big issue because it's very difficult to verify. And then people would conflate mail-in ballots with absentee ballots, which have been being used in every election for a long, long time. And there's not a whole lot of problems or fraud in the absentee ballot system. But when they put those two things together and they act like they're one, they really mislead us. Okay, so when we have a mail-in ballot, many states and sometimes counties within a state just sent out hundreds or thousands of mail-in ballots to addresses, whatever addresses they had on their rolls. Now in my house, I've been in my house for like at least 4 years, and I still to this day get mail for at least 3 other people. I don't have any ballots for those 3 other people because of the state that I live in, and they didn't send out mail-in ballots all over the place. But in several states, there are people who were getting mail-in ballots to their home that were addressed to other people. Now, if I didn't, or if those people weren't honest, they could fill out 3, 4, however many mail-in ballots they got. They could fill them out for whatever candidate they wanted to, and then send those mail-in ballots in, and they would presumably be counted. So there's a whole lot of issues that we're dealing with because of the mail-in ballot issue. There were ballots that were found thrown in the trash. There were dead people that have been found to have voted. Lots and lots of different issues. If you pay attention and look at some different media outlets, you'll be able to find lots of reports about the different things that Donald Trump is complaining about. He's also complained because in places like Detroit, Michigan, and maybe in Pennsylvania, each candidate is supposed to have poll watchers that are allowed to watch the vote. But in Michigan, all the Republican poll watchers were kicked out, and they weren't able to see the process. And in some states, they were kept 50 feet away, where even though they were supposed to be allowed to watch, they weren't close enough to be able to see what was going on. So we have these stories and verified evidence that there's some possible fraud that's taking place. So now the authorities are just going to have to look into it. You also have weird circumstances like you go to sleep one night and like Donald Trump is ahead by 1,000 or 8,000 votes, but then all of a sudden overnight, somewhere around, say 4 o'clock in the morning, 130,000 mail-in ballots came in, and they were all 100% for Joe Biden. Things like that kind of take away from the confidence of the people in the election process. And the last bit of background information for this is that, the Dems, again, were pushing for this mail-in ballot system. Mail-in ballots are not able to be verified the same way absentee ballots are. Absentee ballots have to be requested by an individual. They have to fill out a form. They put their signature on that. They send it in. And then when they send in their ballot after that, the ballot signature is able to be compared with the signature that they put on the application for the absentee ballot. So now all these mail-in ballots have been sent out all over the place, and there's really no verification of whether or not the person whose name is on that ballot is the person that actually put the vote in. So all these things are going on, and we have to figure out, what do we do? Some people are giving up, saying, oh, well, they cheated, they stole it. Some people are saying, oh, well, I guess the country has spoken, and they chose Joe Biden. What do we do? I believe it's very important what we do as Trump supporters, if you're a Trump supporter, and what we do as believers, whether you're a Trump supporter or not, that we need to do from now until the conclusion of this event. We need to stay engaged, we need to stand strong, and we need to make sure that the process is allowed to happen, but we also want to make sure that the process is verified. We don't want to just trust that the system will be doing the right thing. We also need to make sure that that's verified through the different avenues and ways that it can be verified. So if you look in your social media, if you look in your news feeds and different things like that, they're going to say that Joe Biden is the president, but that's actually not 100% true. So I'm a believer, and one of the different things that I look at is, what can I do spiritually or as a Christian in this time? And I want to point some of these things to you, things that you can do, things that I'm going to do, and I encourage you to do. You can also look up. So I found some stuff on the Kenneth Copeland website, whether or not you know who he is. Some good information there. He has 5 things that we should do, and those 5 things I want to recommend to you. The first thing is refuse to fear. So if you're a Trump supporter, we obviously don't want Joe Biden to be president, but now is not the time for us to crumble and to complain and to be upset that Joe Biden was elected president, because he has not yet been elected president. And if you're a believer, you read the Bible, fear is something that the enemy wants to prey on, to bring us down, to cause us to be dejected and upset, and that will take us out of our game, take us away from where we need to be. So the first thing we have to do is refuse to fear. Second thing that we need to do is stay involved. We need to stay involved in whatever way we can. There are different rallies that are going on in places. You can go to some of those. There are also different media reports. We want to continue to listen to what's going on, continue to read the reports. I was reading one AP Associated Press thing that came out today, and the headline said that Joe Biden, was elected 46th president of the United States. And then when you read in the article, it says that the Associated Press, the AP, has projected that Joe Biden is going to win the 2020 election. So it says in the headline that it's a sure thing, it's a done deal, but when you actually read the article, it says that it's not. So we need to stay involved, continue to look at good sources of information, look at more than one source of information. These videos I appreciate you coming to look at, as well as others, so we can stay involved, see whatever it is that we need to do. You can also track your vote. You can make sure that your vote was counted. If you go to your state or your county election website, you can actually see there in a lot of different places whether your vote was counted and accepted, or if something happened and it was possibly rejected. Number 3 is shift your prayers into another gear. I'm praying over this process. I'm praying and hoping that Donald Trump will win, but I'm praying that at the very least, our system will do what it's designed to do, and that we won't have a fraudulent result, so that as we move forward, we can get the one president that we deserve. So before I go any further, let me welcome you again to the channel. I thank you for taking this time out. If you wouldn't mind, subscribe, like, leave me a comment. What do you think about how this is going so far. I'm new here, so don't have the availability to put up some of the videos or some of the things that I'm talking about. There will be a few links that are in the description, but I hope if this is good information to you, you can also share it, let other people know about it, and I appreciate it. The fourth thing we need to do, it says, is to disarm the spirit of strife. We don't need to be in strife. We don't need to be on social media fighting with everyone. We don't need to be upset and carrying around a grudge and having all these negative feelings while we get the results. Don't be in strife with anyone. We don't need to fight with anyone. This is, for the most part, out of our hands naturally, though we're still being engaged to see if there is anything that we can do. And we also, again, want to stay engaged spiritually through prayer so that the system, again, will be processed the right way. Fifth and final thing that they suggest that we do is to be a light. We want to be a light in the dark place. We want to give information where information is not had. There are some people that will hear the headlines or read the articles and they'll think that things are a done deal. We have an opportunity to shed the light to them and let them know that it's actually not done, it's not over. You can also just be a light with our attitude, not being in strife, not arguing, not fighting, not participating in the civil unrest that was supposed to happen, which now we don't need to talk about that. Anyway, those 5 things are things we can do. I strongly encourage you, whether you're a Christian or not, to stay engaged, continue to pay attention, and don't accept the superficial level information. There's a lot of things that are going on, a lot of different agencies at play that are trying to sway things their way, and so we really, really, really need verified and true information. There's another link in the description about 5 prayer points. If you want to look at that, if you're into that, it'll be in the description below. So it's just 5 different things that we can specifically pray for in agreement as believers. So in closing, my friends, I think we have to stand up and be the new resistance. After Donald Trump was president, the other side said that they were going to resist and they were going to be the resistance. And they resisted him all 4 years of his presidency with all types of false claims and false information. Now it's upon us. If you're a Trump supporter, if you voted for Donald Trump, it is incumbent upon you to resist the stealing of this election if that's what's going on. I'm not saying 100% that it's going on, but there are a lot of fishy things that are happening that we really need to be checked out. Now it's time for you and it's time for me to be the resistance. It's time for us to put up or shut up. And I want to close this out in the words of Al Sharpton. Resist we much. We must and we will much. About that, be committed. I'll see you next time. I'm C. Scott. I'm out.